Yes, we are live. So welcome everyone warmly today. Actually, warmly in my country is warmly. I don't know how about your country, but definitely today is beautiful time to have the podcast, master your emotion and find your own truth and live with your own truth. And definitely today I've got a special guest, but before I dive deep in and introduce her again today, um, definitely I would like to give our audience a little bit description around the number 48. Is a 48 is a number of, I would like to say, sipping your joy, enjoy your life, and just be who you truly are and appreciate what you've got in front of you because that's more will come. Everything's around that stuff. But I'm not going to give you a more because that's not my work here on this side, just only planting the seeds and you can go and find it online or you can go and find the teacher. So yes, that's beautiful. By the way, number 4 is a foundation and number 8 is an infinitive number. So a lot of opportunity, lots of doors, lots of portals. And tomorrow is a 5-5. Oh, wow, it's amazing. Actually, yeah, tomorrow, yeah, 5th May. Wow, what a beautiful May it's coming. So welcome warm today. Debbie Solaris with me today. And I couldn't describe from the last podcast we had it. That was the last year, isn't it? Or at the
No, I think
beginning
it
of
was
this
this
year?
year, but earlier this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
something like that. And
Yeah.
actually, when I was just saying dive deep in, I was saying, oh, soul contracts, we talk about the karmic, around also the galactic Akashic records we took, and that was also fascinating because I've received lots of comments and a lots of questions around what is the difference between Akashic records, like we know from the spiritual perspective, and what is the galactic Akashic records? The people are really confused. But anyway, I hope so, you're going to answer that question for my audience today as well. But welcome, warmly, Debbie. Would you like to say in the few words, I don't know if you can, in the few words, what are you doing in this lifetime on this planet Earth?
Thank you. Well, I spent many years working for government and for corporate entities, so I'm fairly new to the spiritual movement. I started doing this work shortly after 2012, after a great awakening, I guess, experience. I'm actually an ET contactee. I've been contacted twice, so which both times has profoundly changed my life. I mean, to the point where I was no longer the same person after having these experiences. And it's also awakened me to my, I would say, galactic gifts. So for the last 10 years, 10, 12 years, I've been doing galactic Akashic readings. I'm not at the place right now where I'm doing personal readings anymore, but I'm focused on, talking about this topic on more of a mass consciousness level. So my work also has shifted, quite a little bit since last year. But just to describe who I am, I'm a galactic historian, a galactic Akashic reader guide, and a starseed intuitive. So I'm also somewhat of an ascension coach. So I try to help people on their spiritual journeys. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, so to
Okay.
speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Would you mind just only say a little bit about this, that's a contact with the ET? So if you can, of course,
Yeah. Oh,
just
yeah,
only if you,
totally.
how does that happen? And anyway, I'm going to give you that.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Because we're limited on time, I'm just going to give the kind of abridged or short
Yeah,
version story. But
yes, please.
back in 2012, I had an ET contact experience, I would say later in May of 2012. And before that, I was very unawakened. I had a vague sense of UFOs, through my husband's interest in the paranormal, but I didn't really believe in extraterrestrials or anything like that until I had my own experience. So basically, what happened is one night I couldn't sleep and I sent out this massive prayer, a very earnest prayer to the universe asking for a help with planet Earth. And 2 weeks went by after my prayer. I didn't think anything came out of it until one night I went to sleep as normal you know, uh, I went to sleep as normal in in my bed, and then when I came back to consciousness, I was in some sort of different reality. It was way, way, way beyond a dream. It was too real to be a dream. It just felt like I was in some sort of higher dimension, just because everything seemed so crisp and so, I would say the details were quite a bit sharper, and there was a lot of colors. And when I was looking around, I noticed I was in an extraterrestrial starship. I think I was too busy processing everything to even have time to be scared or to even invite fear into my consciousness, because I was just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And then I encountered some extraterrestrial beings in this, I guess, out of body experience, that told me they were Arcturians and that I was part of their soul family, that I, volunteered to be on a mission here on Earth. And this was all kind of crazy to me. I mean, I didn't have any idea, that I had this connection with these beings. But the reason why, so I was asking, why me? I'm nobody special. I'm just a government worker, I mean, I used to work for the public health department in Colorado Springs, so so I was asking them, why me? And they said, well, because you're part of our soul family, and we heard your prayer and we figured you were ready, because I was asking for help for planet Earth. And I sent it out to the angelics, to the ascended masters, to the galactics, so it was, I guess it was a very impactful prayer. So they showed me around the ship. First, they answered a lot of my questions about what was going on planet Earth, because I was concerned. I mean, when you look at, I would say, the mainstream media, or you look at stuff that's going on, it looks like things are just falling apart. And in a sense, they are. The old paradigm or the old matrix construct is falling apart. So the Arcturians told me that everything in the 3D is an illusion. It's not real, that we have volunteered to play a part in this reality, but it's kind of an experiment or kind of a test of sorts, but it's not really real, that the real reality really starts when we get into the fifth dimension. And it felt like I was in the fifth dimension when I was on board that starship. It was an actual starship. I wouldn't say that it looked like anything I've ever seen in sci-fi movies. Sci-fi movies are, I think they tend to show the ships as looking kind of mechanical or metallic. This ship was comprised of light. I mean, there was a substance to it, but it was very fluid and very organic, unlike, ships I've seen in sci-fi movies. So it was kind of mind-blowing to see that level of technology, that it was, that things can seem real, but they were fluid, that it could shift and change. And I was on board the ship for a while. I met other the ship was big. It was like a city size. It was so huge. And there was hundreds of other extraterrestrial beings that weren't all Arcturian. There was many different species. So so looking back on it, I wonder if it seemed like it was an Arcturian ship, but maybe it was part of the Galactic Federation, because there were so many different types of beings on board the ship. And I did have interactions with some of these beings, particularly the Pleiadians, but then it was, I came to, and I was back into my normal reality. It's like I woke up and I was back in my normal bed, and I knew at that point that my life has changed, that things are never going to be the same. Soon after I had that experience, I started getting downloads of information from the Akashic records. I didn't know at the time where the information was coming from, but I would wake up and all of a sudden I had all this knowledge about astronomy. I knew about these star systems. I knew about star races. I knew about, galactic history. And it was blowing my mind. I thought, okay, I've never learned this. I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe I'm going crazy, So I started taking spiritual classes across the Front Range area of Colorado. All kinds of spiritual classes, just to try to understand what was happening. And I also did a lot of my own research, so I started reading books and material that was, that other people have done on this topic. And I would say Alex Collier, a lot of what I was seeing really aligned with some of the things he was talking about. And Lissa Royale Holt was another one, Dolores Cannon, so I really started trying to align, my own experiences with that of these great teachers. Alex Collier is also a contactee, but he was contacted by the Andromedans, so going back to my experiences, I did have a second experience very similar to the first one in December 2012. And then after that, I would say back in 2015 was I think December 2015 when I started going public with my story. Before, I didn't really talk about it with too many people because I was afraid people would think I was losing my mind,
Yeah, crazy.
Crazy.
What's
Yeah,
going on
exactly.
with you?
Yeah, so it's a very valid concern. I didn't even tell my family. I told my husband, obviously, and maybe a couple of friends and one of my teachers, and that was it. In 2015, I presented my story. And then a month after that, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I kind of went off for a while. But then once I recovered from breast cancer, and I did it organically and without, I would say, a lot of allopathic medicine, I went back to doing my work. In 2019, I retired permanently from my 3D work and devoted myself to this work full time. I've done readings. I would say I've done thousands of Akashic readings all throughout the planet. For people all around the world. So I did do them, the majority of them remotely, and I started seeing patterns and started seeing, okay, these people that are connected with this star lineage, I was starting to see patterns with some of the traits or some of the issues they were dealing with. And so I was starting to take note of this. I'm currently in the process of writing a book about some of these things I'm seeing, and
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what happened. But I want to give the floor back to you because I know you have more questions.
Oh, I've got a lot. Yeah, definitely, I've got a lot. But I'm so
Yeah.
happy you just only put that extraterrestrial beings, because some of the people saying, "Oh my goodness, they come from somewhere else." But can you just only, I don't know, I would like to say expand, or just only a little bit talk longer, because that's a lot of big confusion around the people, confusion or maybe misunderstanding, and no knowledge, no information around the planet Earth is a, how can I say, is a flat, or is a sphere, or is the extraterrestrials still living on this planet Earth, or maybe they're coming from the galaxy or the cosmos. Whatever you would like to share with us, that would be a great.
Yeah,
so
that would be
any
great.
kind of the opinion, any kind of the.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So a lot of people don't realize this, but Earth's history is actually a lot older than we've been led to believe through, education or through information that's been shared with us through our society. So Earth has been around for millions of years. And, even in the scope of, say, civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria, that's considered to be fairly recent in the grand scope of Earth's history. So Earth is unique in that it's one of the very few planets that has been seeded with DNA from many different star systems. So way back in the beginning, probably even before the dinosaur times, there was extraterrestrial beings that came from, star systems like Sirius or Andromeda or Pleiades, or Lyra, that was bringing DNA from their systems and inserting it into planet Earth in order to see how all these different DNAs from all these different systems was going to mesh together. So it started off kind of like as an experiment. And that's why I think Barbara Marciniak, she has a very beautiful term for Earth. She calls it the living library, because it's just a composite of DNA from different systems. So initially it was kind of like they had a few colonies on Earth, and maybe they were doing certain experiments, and then they would leave. And the reptilians were doing this too, so the reptilians were also coming on Earth. And I do believe that the dinosaurs was a genetic creation by the reptilians, trying to maybe see if they created, I would say, alternate versions of themselves, how that would impact the planet. And I guess it was an experiment that got out of hand, because then there was a meteorite that hit Earth and they were all wiped out, so it was kind of like a starting over point. Atlantis and Lemuria are two civilizations that was created to be the representation of Mother God consciousness and Father God consciousness on planet Earth. So initially, Atlantis was the Father God consciousness, so it was more technologically oriented, more masculine, patriarchal structure. And then Lemuria was more the feminine, so it's more focused on spirituality and on healing, and it was a much more feminine civilization. Unfortunately, there were extraterrestrial beings from the Orion system that escaped from Orion during the wars, or during the time when Orion was starting to get integrated. And there's a whole background behind this. I don't have the time to go into it, but just to kind of give you just an overview, the Orion system was very similar to Star Wars. So if you are a Star Wars fan and you understand the Star Wars saga, that's what Orion was like. And so there was a resistance that was resisting against the Empire, kind of thing. And that's pretty much, I do believe Star Wars is a kind of a soft disclosure of the Orion Wars. But getting into the what happened in Orion, started impacting planet Earth, because these negative factions were starting to infiltrate the Atlantean government. And this is something I saw in the Akashic records. I've seen this with, many of my clients who happen to have lifetimes in Atlantis. And initially, Atlantis was a beautiful civilization. So they weren't always this, corrupt civilization. They had, a lot of technology, but it was very well balanced with spirituality. But then when these factions came in and started convincing the Atlanteans that, oh, the Lemurians are your enemies, we need to go into war with the Lemurians, it created this big disaster. So Lemuria got destroyed. And my understanding is that quite a bit of the Lemurian civilization did get wiped out, but there was a few survivors. So the few survivors from Lemuria ended up establishing Telos, which is an underground civilization, and I think near the Mount Shasta area in California, and in alternate places on planet Earth, mostly in the Pacific Rim area. Atlantis, unfortunately, also their karma caught up with them. They started doing a lot of experiments on genetics, which really got out of hand. And then they ended up going into a civil war, which ultimately destroyed their civilization. Now, just like with Lemuria, Atlantis also had some survivors who took their civilization to Egypt and decided to start a more integrated civilization that was the kind of the combination of the mother goddess consciousness and the father god consciousness. So it was more of a blend between masculine and feminine. And Egypt was a civilization that existed for tens of thousands of years, not just 4,000 years, which some people think. The pyramids and actually, I think that the Sphinx was created well beyond, a few thousand years ago. I mean, what I saw in the records is the Sphinx initially had a lion face. It didn't have a human
that's true.
face.
Yes, that's lots of changes around it. And even
it had a lion face because it was supposed to represent Lyra, the influence of Lyra. And the other thing I saw is that these Atlantean, I would say, survivors that were trying to start this new civilization, they were assisted quite a bit from the positive Orion factions and also the Syrians. So we see a lot of Syrian, and I'm talking about Syrians from Sirius, not Syrians from Syria. So I just
we know that
distinction. Yeah, I want to make that distinction, but. Yes. But these civilizations were heavily influenced from Sirius and Orion. So that's why you see that the three pyramids of Giza are aligned with the Orion belt stars, but yet the shaft is aligned with Sirius, So a lot of these temples that we see all throughout planet Earth are all aligned with different star systems. In Mesoamerica, a lot of the Mayan temples are aligned with the Pleiades and with Venus. So their civilizations had influences from those star systems. A lot of Native American tribes knew that their ancestry came from the stars. I mean, this is something they've been talking about for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. And a lot of Native American groups like the Lakota and the Sioux and the Cherokee all claim ancestry from the Pleiades, particularly from Maya and Merope. So those are two star systems. Pleiades is a big star cluster within the Taurus constellation. So each of these star systems within the Pleiades, even though they were under the umbrella of the Pleiades, all had different connections with, had their own civilizations, in other words. So going back to the living library concept, Earth is a composite of DNA from at least 22 different star systems. So I've comprised a list of all of them that I think most likely gave DNA to planet Earth. But I don't want to go through the whole list here, but I would say it included the Pleiadians, the Syrians quite a bit. I mean, the Syrians probably had the biggest impact on planet Earth as far as genetics, but also the Andromedans to a certain degree, the Arcturians, Alpha Centauri, Venusians, Orion. So there's quite a bit of different star systems. And so it's kind of like a big experiment to see, we're taking all this, these different pieces of DNA, how does it all mesh together? That's why we see so much diversity here on planet Earth. I mean, there's a lot of diversity, even in the fauna, the flora, even in humans, we're also different. As a child, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I read the Bible, and I can never understand the Adam and Eve story. Like, why was there just one man and one woman when there's so much diversity on this planet? It just didn't make sense to me. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I would like to say I raised as well the Roman Catholic Church, but they pushed me, they forced me to go to the church. I went to the church, actually in front of the church, and then I just only forgot to get in, actually in the in the main hall. I was like, but I was just only thinking, I was like, why is that? As a one woman, one man, and also anyway, that's a lots of different rituals in that church. That's
Yeah,
I
I know.
couldn't find the words. Like I just eating something,
Yeah.
drinking something. I don't want to say more around it, but you know what I'm talking about. And the audience, that was like a mind blowing. I said, oh no, something is fishy around it. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
I was like,
Yeah, it's a weird religion for sure. I was raised, I mean, because my family is originally from Italy, so obviously,
oh
Roman
yeah,
Catholicism is big in Italy. I never quite understood why I had to go through an intermediary to talk to God. It's like, okay, why do I need to confess my sins to a priest? It didn't make sense to me.
true.
Yeah, it was weird. So I remember I went to visit St. Peter's in the Vatican, and this was when I was a young adult. And I was so turned off by all the opulence of that church that it just seemed like it was so far removed from God that I renounced the Catholic Church at that point. I just decided I wasn't going to be a Roman Catholic anymore,
Yeah.
and I, went forward from there. But I did spend, I would say, part of my life, I guess, wondering about religion. And what's interesting is that when I was on board the Starship that I mentioned earlier, when I had my ET contact experience, I did ask my Arcturian, I guess, family about religion. I was just like, well, why is there religion? What religion are you guys? And they said, we're not any religion. We have a direct connection with source. Religion is a man-made construct. It's not real. And
Yeah.
that blew my mind at the time, because here in our reality, religion gets pushed a lot. Oh, are you Protestant? Are you Catholic? Are you, Jewish? Are you Islamic? I mean, it's just,
Mhm.
kind of a thing here, so it actually felt, I felt a lot of relief and freedom after hearing, I can just have a relationship with source and not have to go through some man-made construct of what it's supposed to be like, um so anyway, that's kind of, I would say, the story in a nutshell. I wish I can go more into detail, so, but maybe, some folks can go on my website. And if they're interested in this topic, they can go on my
Yeah,
website,
definitely.
the big galactic history section, that they're welcome to read up more about these different star systems and how they impacted planet. And there's, I think, a section on Earth as well. So, I welcome your listeners and viewers to do that, because that way they can get a lot more of the background information.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. So if you're interested, you can go straight away. I would like to invite you to research more and more, because that would be also better for somebody who is really interested. Just only take that website in front of them, take a cup of tea, and just only read it and just only really dive deep in, instead of just only having that only few words like we are taking. But anyway, that's
Yeah,
activation. That's the activation point for them.
it is
That's the
activation, absolutely. And the information in the Galactic History section is all free, so anybody can go on there and read up about these different star systems. I do offer some trainings if you want a deeper dive. I do have a trainings page. We've done a series of webinars, in the last couple of years that are all about different topics like soul contracts and starseed health and things like that, or even discovering your star origins. If you feel a resonance with this information, you might want to check that out as well. But that's not free, but it is a very low cost. We try to keep the cost pretty low.
I think so. I have to go and just only find my origin. Actually, I'm just only thinking, I'm just only feeling, because I had the experience a few times. When I was a
Yeah.
child, I couldn't remember actually what the age, but I was walking anyway, 8, 10 years old. I was being just told to my grandmother, go to our farm and just only pick up some carrots. Anyway, so I went by my own. But then I just only, I was running back to home straight away, because I saw that something white is coming out from the ground. I don't know. I couldn't actually totally remember that. But when I came back home and I told my grandmother, I said, I saw the UFO, I saw the UFO. And she said, what are you talking about? Just forget about it. Anyway, By the way, now when I'm grown up and when I just on the other, when I've got my kids, I had a few experiences during the night. I was floating, I was taking to the ship, but I can't really remember what kind of the ship. But also I had a really profound dreams. That was like a beautiful beings, the light beings. They took me to the cave. And that was so much, oh, I've got a goosebumps, so much love and so much happiness. I felt like I just only went back home. And that way they wasn't gray, but that was like kind of the very light gray. And they were very slim. So when I just only checked that any characteristics, who are they? Or maybe Andromedan, but definitely that wasn't that Andromedan, but that was a much more Pleiadians, Syrian. Anyway, I need to go and dive deep in much more around it.
Yeah, definitely. You should do that. Well, I think what people don't realize is that a lot of us who have souls so a star seed is a person who has a soul that originated from another star system. So they didn't initially come from Earth, So a lot of us are here. And, if you're interested in this topic, you might want to read Dolores Cannon's book called The Three Waves of Volunteers in New Earth. It's fascinating deep dive into why a lot of us chose to be here on Earth, because I do get that question a lot from my clients and from, folks that take my trainings, like, why would I choose to be in this really duality consciousness, very harsh, world,
Yeah.
that we're in. And according to Dolores Cannon, a lot of us volunteered to be here to help Earth ascend from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. Earth was always supposed to be a fifth dimensional reality. And at one time, it was a fifth dimensional planet. But after the fall of Lemuria, it plunged into the third dimension. We've been stuck in the third dimension ever since. Now, Earth is currently in the process of ascending into the fourth dimension, which is why a lot of us in the fourth dimension, we have the opportunity to explore deep shadow aspects of ourselves. So that's why a lot of us are getting called right now to clear old karma or old patterns or old stuff that we've carried into this life from past lives. And maybe at some point you and I can do a deeper dive into that, because I also do things called an Akashic clearing that a lot of my clients have, consulted me for. But Akashic clearings are basically not so much changing your Akashic records, but setting new parameters and intentions so that it takes you back to your original cosmic blueprint. So it aligns you with your highest potential. And I am in the process of creating a training around that. So I'm excited to offer that soon. But basically, we are moving into this, fourth dimensional realm where things seem a little dark at times, and we're getting forced to release a lot of this old karma so that we can go into the fifth dimension without carrying that baggage into the fifth dimension. So a lot of people are going through massive transformations right now. Maybe they're ending or starting new relationships. They might be ending old relationships. Maybe they're completely changing their job or their location, or they're changing their focus on life. So we're seeing a lot of changes manifest in the outer world as well as in the inner world. And I think this is all very purposeful. We're being called to do this so that we can ascend into the fifth dimension. Now, my understanding is that not everybody is going to ascend into the fifth dimension, at least not right away. There's a lot of unawakened souls that maybe on some higher level have chosen not to be a part of the ascension. So you might see family members falling away, or which is kind of sad, but maybe there would be some people that might pass on or might be attritioned out, as I call it. But so we are going to see massive changes in the next few years. The old paradigm is crumbling. it seems like they're taking a stronghold, but that's their last ditch effort to try to I guess cling to control. But and when I'm talking about these entities, they're the Dark Cabal, they're the descendants of the negative Orion factions, or the negative Syrian factions, I referred to earlier, that infiltrated Atlantis. So they still have descendants. A lot of them are in our royal families. There's trying to maintain, or into these, Rockefeller, or more, I don't know, these groups, that what they call the Illuminati. But they're trying to stay control, or try to maintain control on planet Earth, but their control is crumbling because too many of us are awakening. Where the mass consciousness level is expanding. I wouldn't say everyone right now is awake. I would say there's awakening to the reality that, hey, this isn't just the only, civilized planet.
Yeah.
Things they have always been here on Earth, to a certain degree. I think the Pleiadians kind of pulled out in 10 AD. And I want to do a deep dive at some time to see why that particular date. But yeah, it's they've always had, I would say, a connection here on planet Earth. It's just since the Middle Ages, they kind of pulled back a little bit because the consciousness just really plummeted at that point. But now that the consciousness is expanding again, we're going to see a lot more interaction. So you're hearing these stories like you had about, your childhood experience, where a lot of us have had contact. Maybe we didn't quite understand it or quite remember all aspects of it, but a lot of us have had contact with these beings, and they're doing this, I think, in order to activate us, because a lot of us did come here for specific missions, so,
yeah.
In your case, probably they were trying to, maybe you were too young to be activated, but they were trying to adjust your field so that you could stay on planet Earth, so because this is such a dense reality here, you can't get much lower than 3D without becoming a piece of paper, a flat piece of 2D is just your flat, 3D is the lowest dimension we can be without really, without being real, I guess, or, or still being real, I guess, but at some point, and I say this is happening even now, we are shifting out of the 3D and more into 4D, and eventually we'll be shifting into the higher rungs of 4D and hopefully into the lower rungs of 5D. But because we're free will beings, we don't necessarily have to choose to ascend. Some people don't want to ascend. Maybe that's part of their soul journey, not to ascend. So like I said, you might see that, oh, my relationships are changing. I'm not as aligned with certain people as I used to be, or, I'm not aligned with this anymore because my frequency is changing. I get a lot of clients, or I used to get a lot of clients that would tell me, I don't like where I live anymore. I want to move. And so, we try to find higher vibrational places that they can consider moving to. I know Sedona is a popular place, Sedona, Arizona, but at least amongst my, my colleagues, but there's other higher vibrational places, Hawaii, even in Europe, I think some of the Eastern European sectors, even though they've been controlled by communism for a long time, there's some very high vibrational areas there, so.
Yeah, I would like to say, because I come originally from Poland, so we've got some beautiful, very energetic places. A communism in our country was for so long. And they
I
really knew
know.
it, what they need to shut, what they need to let go to the people just only being, for the public scene. So yeah, that was alone. And that was like a places there just only saying, no, don't go there. No, that's so fishy. So I know that some kind of the places where a lot of miracle just only happens straight away. A lot of, even when you just only step in place where I was born, and maybe 70 kilometers, I don't know, around that. When you just go there, you can just only stay there in a few minutes and you can feel like, oh, so peace and so, oh, amazing stuff. I went, 2 months ago, I went to Poland, to Gdańsk, on the top of on the north of Poland. Anyway, I went to the one cathedral, and that was a cathedral, and that was a beautiful one. I've been called to go to the specific place in that cathedral, and just only I sat down and the tears just only poured down from my eyes. I was like, what's going on with me? I had a catharsis over there. So those
Oh,
places,
wow.
that's really
Amazing.
energetic places. Like that was the angels only staring at me. I said, okay, don't stare at me like that. I know I need to just only touch
Oh,
out
how
something.
beautiful. Wow. That must have
But
been a profound experience.
I
Yeah,
was,
there's like locations in Eastern Europe where there's hidden pyramids, and they're getting activated right now. So I think what you might have had was kind of an activation experience in one of these locations. But there's, high vibrational locations, like Glastonbury, I guess
I
I
would
was
like to
just,
say, yeah.
yeah. And, other locations throughout Europe that are also, aligned with these higher dimensional frequencies. And maybe that's why they've been suppressed for so long, because, the powers to be in this planet don't want to see this activation occur, so they've purposefully kept these areas very suppressed.
That's true, because also I'm just only following, I'm just sometimes listening the Elizabeth April. I don't know if you know her. She's from United States, but I don't know where does she live. But anyway,
Yeah.
she's a light worker, and she's just only traveling. She's doing lots of astral traveling. And what she told, that was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when was
Yeah.
2020. Anyway, she'd been called to go with the group of the souls over the Ukraine or that part of the Europe, because that was like a big energetic portal. And anyway, so they've been doing a lots of clearing and lots of beautiful, putting lots of beautiful healing energy. So that's why it's like Eastern Europe is like I would like
It's
to
going to
say,
be an activation point. I really do believe that. And
yeah, of course.
like a lot of people are real focused on Egypt, but I would love to see, I don't know, more spiritual retreats in Eastern Europe, or even in, other parts of Europe, so all these locations can start getting activated. And I know there's a lot of beautiful light workers out there right now that are grid activators. They, like the person that you described, I would say she's most likely a grid activator.
Yeah.
They're traveling to different parts of the planet to try to activate the frequencies there. And so some of your listeners might be called to do that kind of work, and that's really exciting.
I would like to mention something that only came to
Oh,
my
sure.
attention, to my head, around the light workers activation, around the Eastern Europe, about the people, the Slavic people like me, and that people from, I would like to say, France, anyway, whole Europe, I would like to say, and specific, just only putting that underlying point around the Eastern one. So because I don't know, somewhere I just only read it, or maybe I had a download, because now my information is like, oh, I don't know, maybe I read it, or maybe I had a download. So something around, so guys, we've got a lot of psychic ability, really deep psychic ability. So some of us, that on the other side, really know what's going on. And so that's why we've been suppressed. That's why we've been saying, oh no, stop,
Oh,
you don't
totally.
have to go. Oh, no. So that's why it's a lot of things like stopping us. And during that 2020, when the lots of stuff happened, and when they're trying to give us that kind of the stuff in our body, that was lots of different, I would like to say, how I couldn't find the words, direction. Like I would like to, they've been choosing, oh, you're from this country, you're from that country, so you're going we're going to give you this or give you that. They really
Mm.
knew it, what's going on. I just only read it somewhere. I couldn't remember where. But now, for me, personally, for me, that's makes sense. That's what
Hmm.
makes sense. I don't know how about you.
Yeah, I've actually done quite a few Akashic readings for people in Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe is actually quite awakened. I mean, I would say maybe more so than other parts of Europe. Compared to Italy or Italy is still very asleep, in my opinion, but they have a heavy veil of Roman Catholicism there, which
Yes, that's
yeah, I mean, they're very stuck in old school thinking, in my opinion. But Eastern Europe, I think because the frequencies there are so high, and I do see lineages with people that come from the Pleiades, or they have their genetics from the Pleiades or from Lyra or from other star systems like Tau Ceti or Alpha Centauri in that sector of the planet that have carried these abilities throughout, I would say, multiple generations. And I know there's a kind of a gypsy component to Eastern Europe. These people have always been connected, but they've been very suppressed. They've been ostracized. And some of them may have even turned to black magic, because they've been ostracized so much. So there's the dark aspect of that too. But I do see quite a bit of, I would say, an internal awakening. And I do believe a lot of these folks have had psychic abilities for generations because they have ancestry that came from these other star systems, and they've
yeah.
maintained that. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Eastern Europe in the coming years. I think it's going to be hopefully a great activation for them, and maybe they'll become in the forefront of an awakening throughout, because Eastern Europe is kind of between Asia and Europe. So that would be a great vantage point to also awaken Western Asia, in addition to
Mm,
Europe. So,
yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. I think I do see quite a bit of positive awakening and change in that part of the world.
Yeah. Oh, the word came to me. They've been target. Oh, target.
Oh yeah, no, they have
Oh,
been targeted. Yeah, no, totally. That's why
of course.
communism has such a stronghold there. They were trying to keep these people suppressed
Yeah.
for hundreds of years, if not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been really pretty sad. But I get a lot of beautiful star seeds out of Poland and Hungary and Croatia and Romania,
Yes. Yes.
that are really awakening, and they're starting to make really positive change in their locations.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to stay the case, hopefully.
No. No, we are so strong now at the moment. Before,
Yeah.
yes, because I remember my grandmother, she had a lot of psychic ability, but she was
Hmm.
suppressed. She doesn't want to now, uh, when she's not here anymore in the physical form, I know she had that that psychic ability, but she couldn't talk, she couldn't announce everyone, I've got that psychic ability, I've got that power to heal, or even she was.
That's because people were killed and tortured for having those
Yeah,
abilities.
being the
So
witch, yeah,
yeah,
just when you
yeah,
burn on the step, yeah,
yeah,
that's me, happened in my past lives. But anyway, but now
yeah.
I'm the no, I'm so strong. So let's just when you finish around what is that difference between the Akashic records? I mean, the
Okay.
Akashic record, the people know, and the
Yeah.
Galactic Akashic record. Just only give me a few, my audience,
Oh,
few
yeah, I'll
brief.
just I'll finish up with that because that
Okay.
was the original topic anyway. So we digressed quite a bit, but it's all good.
Yes, I know, but
Um,
it is
yeah,
what it is.
there's not the Akashic records are the Akashic records. So you have Akashic records for Earth, you have Akashic records for other star systems. It's all encompassing. It actually the Akashic records encompasses our universe and multiple universes, because we do live in a multi-universe reality. So there is
Yeah.
other universes beyond ours. But even within our universe, there's records on everything. There's records on, say, the Arcturian star system or the Sirian star system or the Pleiades. And so when we're venturing into the Akashic records, there's no limitation on what records you can access anymore. Maybe at some point, I would say in recent years, we finally, because the consciousness has expanded so much, on a mass scale, now we're finding that people are able to access records even beyond Earth, whereas before it was just, people were just delving into Earth records, so there really isn't much of a difference except, where you want to go. And I think now that people are awakening, they're realizing that, hey, this reality goes way beyond planet Earth. We do have influences from other star systems. We have our ancestry from other star systems. They're starting to venture more into these galactic records. So to me, there's not much difference, because I look at all of it, but
Okay.
yeah. So there's no special password for, oh, let me get into the galactic records. It's all one and the same, but it's just where you as a consciousness choose to explore, when you're in those realms. So that's it. That's it, I guess. So anyway, this was a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for having me on.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's I'm so I guess I'm very proud and very happy that you're doing your work to try to awaken Europe, because my ancestry is from Europe. I would like to see people in Europe have better lives and be able to, align with their highest potential, which I don't think they're quite there yet, but they're getting there. So, so blessings to you on your work.
Oh, thank you. Definitely, I would like to say that Poland is like maybe it's not the same, maybe like Italy, but that's a quite few old generation. They're really, really holding the load, so the old
Yeah,
paradigm. So definitely, but anyway, like Gisoni said, maybe they've chosen that path and they need
they
to
could have.
finish
Yeah,
that path, and then the next reincarnation they're going to revisit again,
expand.
again, and again, and again. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's going to happen all throughout Europe, and even maybe to a certain extent the UK. But
Yeah.
well, anyway, thank you for having me
Oh,
on,
thank
and many
you.
blessings to you and your listeners. I'm just happy to be a part of this. Thank you.
Would you like to say something before you go, or where the people can find you? So, or maybe you've got a new
Oh,
course
yeah.
or new training.
Sure. The best way to find me is on my website, which is just simply debbiesolaris.com. So it's DEBBIESOLARS. So if you're
Oh,
interested in the work I'm doing, you can check that
mhm.
out. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I haven't quite ventured into TikTok yet. Not my thing. I'm still old school that way, um, and we do have a little group on X. It's a little Starseed group, so it's called Debbie's Starseed Lounge. So if you're interested in joining us for some conversations, feel free to join us there. That's open to everybody, not just people that take my trainings. But as far as courses, we regularly offer webinars. They pretty much start off as a live webinar, but we record them and then we offer them for sale.
Okay.
Yeah, so people can check those out. They're usually about 2 hours long. So we have 90 minutes of information and then 30 minutes of question and answer. And then I teach a Galactic Akashic reading course once a year. We're currently finishing up this year's course, but if you're interested in that, there is a place where you can sign up to be on the wait list, because we are going to offer it again next year. So also, I just want to, if you're in the United States or if you have the capacity to be in the United States, I will be presenting at various conferences this summer. The first one is going to be Disclosure Fest in the LA area in California. And then I'm going to be presenting at the Starseed Conference in San Diego on July 7th. And then and this might be of interest to people in Europe, I'm going to be part of a beautiful
Yes.
spiritual retreat in Connecticut, which is actually not far from LaGuardia Airport, so if you are in Europe and you want to be a part of this amazing Atlantean reactivation, portal reactivation, I'll share some of that. I think those links with you if you want.
Please
If
do
you want to,
that. Yes. I
yeah,
would like to see you in real life. I don't want to see you in
yeah,
the
you
screen.
should. You should consider coming to that. It's called the Stargate Crusaders Retreat, and it's at a beachside town in Connecticut called Madison, and we're going to be staying on the beach, and it's just beautiful there. So I'm hoping that we'll get folks from the East Coast, but also from Europe that might come and stay with us for the weekend. So it's going
Please
to be a
share.
deep dive. Yeah. So if you want to heal those old Atlantean lifetimes, that might be the place to do it, So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Well, anyway, thank you again.
yes. Thank you so much. Please share this information. So I'm going to leave it below under the link, under the video, so
Yeah,
that people can
I'll
reach.
share those links with you. I'll just email those to you. I think that'll be great.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for
Okay.
your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Thank
Have
you.
a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.